Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, and it's allergy season, so my voice is going to be shot. Sorry, folks. But we power on anyway, especially when we're doing the greatest recordings ever. And today we're going to be talking about Handel's Messiah. Yeah, Messiah, the Messiah, a Messiah, pick a Messiah, any Messiah. So many recordings, so many fine recordings, so many different versions to make fine recordings of. Handel couldn't touch anything without changing it or diddling it or doing something to it. And so there is a Messiah for all tastes. However, there are probably only a few truly great Messiahs, and this is certainly one of them. Pinnock. Trevor Pinnock. Now, we've talked about this before, of course, but we've talked about most of these greatest recordings ever. I mean, that's part of the deal here. But this one was really special, and I'll tell you why. Here's the thing. When Messiahs started popping up on period instruments, some of them were marvelous. I mean, the Christopher Hogwood Messiah remains a landmark. I mean, it really is. But is it a great recording of Messiah? That's the question. I mean, it's very good, don't get me wrong. But, and then Harnoncourt did one. And the period instrument people popped in. But the fact of the matter is that if we're going to have a greatest Messiah ever, it's probably going to be with English forces because they kind of have a proprietary interest in the work. That's number one. Number two, if it's going to be on period instruments, there had to be a certain amount of time while the English early music mafia got itself caught up to what we might call really high standards of performance. When Hogwood was doing Messiah, it sounded interesting because it was so different. But was it great playing? Not really. Not really. I mean, things got better as the pool of players that made all these groups, because they're all the same people. Don't get me wrong. You've got the English Concert, and you've got the what's this? Yeah, this is the English Concert, and the Academy of Ancient Music, and the Hanover Band, and the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, and the Monteverdi Choir and Orchestra, Gardner's folks. It was, the Taverner Players. It's all the same five people. I mean, I'll never forget looking at, because they gave you the performers list. It's like, well, was there ever a trumpet not played by Crispian Steele Perkins? I mean, you remember these people, and so you keep seeing the same names popping up, maybe in slightly different order. But they got better. They got better as time went on. They mastered their instruments. They settled down into a certain corporate sonority. And so this Messiah, which came out in 1988, apparently, was done at a time when they had finally gotten a grip on how they were going to play and what they were doing. And then, of course, there is the question of the conductor, in this case, Trevor Pinnock, who is fantastic. I mean, he's just a wonderful musician all around, and a very good conductor, and a very good choral conductor, and a fine keyboard player. And he was just, of all of these folk who were running the show, he was arguably the best of them, I think, in the UK at least. There were other groups with other people running them, but I think his particular brand, the recordings that the English Concert, were putting out were very fine. And I mean, his Haydn symphonies, his Handel stuff is I mean, just lots and lots of music, and extraordinarily well done. So this Messiah has all of that going for it. It really does. But then you've got an amazing bunch of soloists, and they're not all, early music specialists. Well, some of them are, but you've got Arline Auger and Sophie von Otter, Michael Chance, who's a, male alto countertenor type critter, which I don't ever really particularly like, but he's one of the better ones. Howard Crook and John Tomlinson. I mean, just a terrific lineup of first-class singers. And I mean, that makes a huge difference as well. And he doesn't do what John Eliot Gardner did, which was the, make your own Messiah. It was like a Heathkit for Messiahs. Remember Heathkit? You could like buy anything, like a household appliance, and you had to assemble it yourself. So, Gardner like put together all the different various versions. And it's like he did with Berlioz's Romeo and Juliet, too. He was big on that. And then he said, go ahead, assemble your own. Well, I don't have the patience for that. I want somebody to do the assemblage and present it to me as a single, coherent, unified conception of the work, which is what Trevor Pinnock does here. He really does. It's just beautiful. And I think, I'm going to just look at this for a second. Came with a lovely booklet. I don't know if it still does. I don't even know if it's still available. I mean, God only knows. It's just ridiculous. So we've got, let's see, we have 73 minutes for disc 1 and 76 minutes for disc 2. Wow, baby. I mean, so that's what, 2 hours and 2 hours and 75, yeah, it's 2.5 hours. It's about right. You know what I mean? Everything about this performance, I think, just feels right. I mean, those overall timings, of course, are just meaningless. But I mean, in terms of the sequence of events and the tempo, both between and within individual numbers, and the chorus sounds glorious, and the Hallelujah chorus sounds very Hallelujah-like. I mean, I remember how excited everybody got back when the period instrument people were doing these things. And it's like, oh, this is so thrilling because the Hallelujah chorus finally begins quietly like it's supposed to. And it's like, what? It's a hallelujah, for God's sake. I mean, it's not supposed to be hallelujah. I mean, people were doing things just to do them. And people were getting very excited because, well, it sounded different. And that's what we wanted. Well, yeah. After you get the novelty wears off, you have to have a performance that you can live with. One that really, really gives you the emotional charge that you expect from great music, from Handel's music, from Messiah. I mean, it's not for nothing that it gets performed every 15 minutes around the holiday season. So this is definitely a great, great Messiah. And one of the greatest recordings ever. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.